evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first semi-final of Debate 88. We've had 4 quarterfinals at the institution so far, and for the remainder of the series, we have returned to the SBC auditorium. 4 teams from 3 institutions have made it so far. The NUS and the Singapore Polytechnic are represented by 1 team apiece, and the Institute of Education has made a very strong showing with 2 teams in the semi-finals so far. The proposition for tonight comes from the NUS, and the members of this team are Ms. Anida Subramanian, Tan Cheng Yu, Lok Yin Mei, and Adrian Tan. The opposition will come from the Institute of Education, Team B. This team comprises Zaleha Amin, Sim Chong Bun, Raja Segar, and Elaine Lim. Now, before we get to the motion proper, let me run through the prizes. The winning team will win $2,500 for themselves and $3,000 for the institution they represent. The runners-up will win $1,500 for themselves and $2,000 for their institution. The best speaker of the series will receive $200. All prizes are, of course, kindly sponsored by ESSO. And now we get on to tonight's motion. It takes a hard look at our economy. Do we have enough entrepreneurs? And if not, why? The motion reads that the dearth of entrepreneurs in Singapore is due more to a lack of innovative spirit rather than support. The dearth of entrepreneurs in Singapore is due more to a lack of innovative spirit rather than support. Now, no debate would be complete without judges. And these important people tonight are Mr. Toh Tien Ser, an executive director of a stockbroking company. Mr. Chow Kok Fong, general manager of the Construction Industry Development Board. And Mr. Mike Gray, a public accountant and a board member of the Singapore Council of Social Services. Well, it's time to get the show on the road, and with that, may I call upon Anida Subramanian. Welcome back. Well, I'm sure during entrepreneurs or bookies would have taken bets on the outcome. Before we announce the verdict and make some people rich or poorer, I'd like to call upon Mr. Mike Gray to deliver the judges' comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The topic tonight was very dry. The judges thought it was a dry topic, so a very difficult topic for both teams to address. We thought they addressed it very well. Firstly, though, I'd like to cover the delivery, because we had quite a lot of comments about the delivery. So voice is very important, and the pitch, rather than speaking more naturally. Upset with the proposition when they stood up, looked at the opposition, and called the tendency too much material to be put in too short a time. Both teams would be much better if they'd put less points into their allocated time. Not only spoken slower, but the pause to understand what you're debating, whereas you tended to move on quickly, not allowing the audience. Of course, our Prime Minister is a great example of the pause. I think you could learn a lot from watching the Prime Minister. The other part of the performance is the body language. It's important, body language. But it appeared that both teams had had extensive tuition in how to use hands and how to point here, point there. But what they hadn't been told is when to correctly use the hands. It wasn't natural. Hands should be used naturally. People were pointing and throwing their hands up. In fact, I think there'd be some pretty good conductors of the Singapore Symphony Orchestra here, the way the hands were used. Now, if I can move on to the subject matter. We felt that the opposition had used too many support by government. There were some good points they brought up, but were not expanded on. Things like the CPF, funds being locked up in the CPF, should have expanded on that. The school system, that's one area we thought was important, but you didn't expand enough on it. That the education system doesn't allow for entrepreneurs. It's a very rigid education system, and that was brought out in the economic report. I think you should have spent less emphasis on government. But then, on the other hand, there were some good points that you raised, that the new incentives raised by new incentives of the government were too little, too late, and that the EDB tend to favor the bigger companies. The proposition, we liked some of your examples, in particular the example of China, entrepreneurs not following the ministers into China. We also thought that the Hong Kong example was good, in that the Hong Kong entrepreneurs are there and there's no government incentive in Hong Kong. The other point which we thought the proposition brought out well was the fact that there's no incentive to go into entrepreneurship. That if you've got a good job, then why go into entrepreneurship? One point which was brought up loosely was the lack of finance, but we think you could have expanded more on that, because to be an entrepreneur, finance is very important. But overall, we felt it was a good job was done of a dry topic. Now, I won't keep you in suspense much longer, and I will hand over to the chairman to announce the team that will go into the next very good teams. There's a winner and which it is.
Team which makes it to the final. I'm practicing the art of pause. The prop. Thank you for your support at tonight's debate. We'll like to see you next, where the Singapore Polytechnic meets the Institute of Education, Team A. Till then.